Another film I watched recently was Poltergeist 2, The Other Side, the sequel to the Steven Spielberg produced and created 1982 horror. The Freeling family has escaped from their old home, which was plagued by monstrous ghosts, and is now living with Mrs. Freeling's mother, trying to recover from their ordeal and uh, restart their lives. But they find themselves being menaced by further supernatural forces when an archaeological dig on the site of their old home uncovers a strange underground cavern that appears to have been home to an apocalyptic cult. I don't like Poltergeist. I think it's a lazy ghost train of a movie. It's all shocks and frights, and there's very little to it beyond that. I saw it years ago on television and found it to be completely unthreatening, completely unfrightening. I've never understood what the big deal is about it. Rather like with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, a film I find risible and screeching and annoying, and not in any way scary. So I found Poltergeist 2 to be an improvement in that it has a bit more focus to it. We have a villain character, the ghost figure that was the leader of the cult, an apocalyptic minister played by the late Julian Beck, who's at the time of the film's production in the late stages of terminal illness and looks like it. He looks extremely ill and extremely unwell in a way that visual effects and makeup can't really replicate. He looks extremely ill, and there is a sense of perhaps exploiting someone who was in very poor health, although he was apparently mentally very capable and his performance is very strong and very magnetic. And he was a great man of the American theatre who was simply taking the opportunity for a high profile role and a big payday right at the end of his career. The film is not particularly good. I mean, it's a tight 90 minutes. It has some intense moments, but generally too much of it is just a retread of the first film. And the first film is just things jumping out and going boo. It's not scary. This has a bit more focus to it. It has a bit more structure to it. It has a villain you can point at rather than just some vague supernatural force threatening people. So there is more of a coherent shape to the movie. There are supporting roles by various returning actors from the first film. Will Sampson has a supporting role, and there is some very poorly executed attempts at humour. There's a running joke about the Freeling's car not working and only favouring certain people, which is dismally unfunny. And the lack of someone like Steven Spielberg to at least have a sense of how this should work. For all its faults, the original film is a ghost train, and at that, it works extremely well. I think the lack of any real structure here, in that sense, is a real problem. And as a result, although it's an improvement on the first film, it still isn't that good.